Yeah.
Okay,
Fun time.
I think it's recording. It is recording. Yay, it's Monday. Yay. We're one day off.
Yes.
And it's the 27th of July? At least where I
Last time.
am.
It's the same over here.
Oh, okay.
Might be different in at least one or two time zones.
Right, right. It's 109 here in sunny Mississippi,
Is the
which is
sun? Is there actually sun in Mississippi?
well, in most places on Earth there is, but here in Mississippi it's particularly sweltering and evil,
Ah, okay.
um, and it's out at the moment and bearing down hard on my car. So
Ah, okay. Anyway, with us today is me as usual. Jer, we have Tacy over there somewhere.
Yeah, Tazzy, as usual. And we also have, oh gee, either
Awkward silence.
Galafor or Big Thorio.
yeah, yeah, either one's cool. Gale 4 for the VGFers, Big Thorio for the all the resters.
I'm only stopping because, you have you have like two usernames. I'm not sure which one's okay, but that's either one.
Yeah, no, I go by. I mean, pretty much everyone just knows me as Jake, just across the board. But I have all these. Of course, Gale 4 is VGF for 10+ years that I've been using that name. So that's where most of the listeners here are going to be coming from. So
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah, so we have Gail over with us because we were going to discuss Let's Plays this week.
Right,
And,
yeah.
Well, at least I thought it was an interesting subject, so we tried to fetch some people that actually does it a bit more than me and Taz over here. So we managed to get one. That's at least better than zero.
yeah, I'm kind of your poor man's two best friends place. Let's do this.
Oh well.
Sure.
So yeah, let's just jump straight to it. That with Let's Plays, it's a fairly new medium. I mean, I don't think it's been around for more than what do you think, 7 years maybe. That I
Probably
can
around that
remember.
time. It's definitely had a surge in growth and evolution over the last like 5 years. Really, a very quick surge and going from basically like forum hobby to actual viable profession,
Well,
which is
it's interesting with profession because it would actually be a dream job. I mean, all you do is sit around and play at home and play video games all the damn days. Well, with some
I mean,
video
basically.
editing.
It feels so fast when that happened. Like one moment it was just like a bunch of people doing it for fun, and then the next moment it's like all these like advertisers are like, "We'll pay you to let us put ads on your videos." And it's like, oh,
hmm
I didn't think of it like
Giving me
that.
money. Okay, let's do this.
Absolutely.
That
It's one of those things that got that start on forums. Everybody wanted to do the. Yeah, I want to say it's like something awful. You had people like Slow Beef and all those original guys who started off the whole thing of like just posting pictures and adding commentary, and people really liked that. I remember Landon tells the story a lot. The time that someone actually did post a video Let's Play for the first time, somebody came along in the thread and was like, "Oh, this is awesome! You innovated it." And 2 posts later, they put, "You ruined it."
well, I think that we already at the beginning had a split in the in the people that thought it was this is the greatest thing ever and this is the worst thing ever.
Exactly.
And I
It
mean,
was like,
I remember back when I was 18, 19 that there was this thing going on YouTube with you sat around and just played games, played games and made commentary above it, on top of it. But uh, but I think everything just kind of evolved. Starting, I think it's '06 when YouTube got really started to get big.
right. That sounds about right.
Yeah, just because all of a sudden you had people that in an easy way could post videos on an internet site.
Uh, to
Which
to,
oh,
to
I'm
be
sorry.
fair, to be fair, YouTube did try to fight back against it for a while. Much
Yeah,
to
Mhm.
its
you can only hold back the river
disadvantage.
so long. I don't. How many employees did YouTube have at those days? What was it, like 5 guys in a tool shed?
Yeah, like 6 dudes, a monkey, like the banana in the corner was counted as an employee.
Yeah,
More or
so
less.
if they're just gonna sit and ban video game videos all the damn day, I don't think they would get that much production actually done.
Exactly.
So
So it's one of those things where the most interesting thing with Let's Plays is how quickly it went from you go to the forums, you see all these people posting these pictures, and the first few were just like the funnier you were, obviously the more popular it got. It's kind of like the Nuzlocke craze. It was like the funnier your comic, the more traction you were going to get, but anyone could do it. It's a low entry barrier.
yeah,
So it's the same thing with video Let's Plays, and actually I'd say the entry barrier is lower because the picture ones you actually had to put a little bit more effort into. You had to take the screenshot, get the commentary, and do that ad nauseum for fucking ever until you had a viable post. And nowadays, with video Let's Plays, you just put a capture card in. I mean, it costs a little bit of overhead. You got to get a decent mic, you got to get a decent capture card, but
Pretty much.
about I would say $200. That's the low entry barrier point to just get started on this thing, and anyone could do it, and that's why it's kind of like a saturated market.
yeah. I mean, when everything starts to get easy to do, well, everyone with some kind of imagination gonna make a try to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, even
And that's the
I have posted some really crappy videos on YouTube.
and it's the thing about it is content production should never be discouraged, even if you're really bad at it. Even if you're 12 years old and you're making one of 1 billion Minecraft videos that nobody has time for. um, it's one of those things where you should still do it because you should still be encouraged to post things on the internet and feel free to share content. But the low entry barrier is what makes it difficult to actually crack the glass ceiling on Let's Playing, like to get into where, Two Best Friends and Game Grumps and all these big names are.
Yeah,
Um, because there's such a sea of little guys like us on the very bottom who are nobody's going to give them the time of day because you could just go watch Game Grumps. You could just go watch the ones who are going to be good.
yeah. People
Mm.
usually want to have regular faces that they see, and know what they want to know what they're getting, basically.
Yeah, it's very. It's something I've realized only kind of more recently, in that when I was like up until like maybe last year, I was subscribed to like maybe 7 Let's Players, but like the problem with that is sooner or later you're gonna you're gonna have to start watching like 7 videos a day if like they're all on projects at a time or something. I have like a lot of
Mhm.
people who are inactive, but when they're like active and start posting day after day, it gets a little time consuming to have to go through all of them. And like after a while I was just like, okay, which ones am I not interested in anymore? And
Yeah.
that's you don't have time to just go watching every Let's Play channel you like that gets a little bit of interest. You have to like let go of something after a while.
Oh, that's an interesting point to make because I've always thought that the hardest part about keeping viewer interest is you have to be interesting, or at the very least, you have to know what brevity is. A lot of channels, especially like even some of the better channels, I'm not going to name names here because I don't want to call anyone out, but they start posting longer and longer videos the more they go on. It's like they start at 10 minutes and then they start going to 20 to 30 to 40.
Yeah,
And we post 20 to 30-minute videos, but it's one of those things where like I've always admired certain channels for posting 10 minutes a day because it's like, okay, you can dedicate 10 minutes to a video versus having to dedicate half an hour to an hour of your day every day, sometimes more than once a day, to whatever series that they're putting out.
Yeah. Also, I think at least when it comes to YouTube videos, is that when you get your account, you're limited to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
it was so in around 2000.
Right. Nowadays you just activate your account and you have like an hour or more. So
Ah, okay, yeah. But then again, as I've learned with this podcast, if you're gonna do an hour of content, you basically have to put out at least 2 hours, one for the recording and one for the post production.
yeah.
I'm counting in rendering time when I was rendering it in a video software.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Hmm. I guess I don't mind the 30-minute videos, but more or less it just kind of became something more like. After a while, I was realizing like some people are just kind of not interesting to watch anymore. A lot of it was because some of the people end up just kind of let's playing the same stuff. Like a lot of people do Nintendo games because that's like that's like an easy thing to hit for popularity, and like people will instantly recognize Mario on like a screen somewhere. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the amount of people doing Super Mario 64, it gets ridiculous.
It's very rare to find somebody who can actually put an interesting twist on that too.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where like I admire the Vinesauce crew because they at the very least try to put a twist on everything they play.
Right.
Like Vinny played or actually like Chaos editions and stuff like that. Those are fun and that's new and no one's seen that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to. I have to admit, I never watched those guys. I never heard of them before.
They're pretty good. I mean, they're streamers and such, so I wouldn't count them as Let's Players in particular, just because streaming and Let's Playing are two entirely different things. Only because of the fact that obviously with a stream, you're doing this live. You got a schedule. Your people can come and watch you do this live, and there's more interactivity. Whereas with a Let's Play, it's more like two dudes in a room hanging out and you're not really involved. One of the old rules of Let's Playing, it was kind of one of those unspoken rules, was don't engage your audience in a Let's Play. Don't ever talk to the audience. That's for streaming,
Ah, okay. Yeah. Then again, I always thought that, for me at least, I think Let's Plays and streaming is kind of two sides of the same coin.
Oh yeah,
It's just
absolutely,
that,
absolutely.
It's just that you get it's just a different feeling to have it live and having it recorded beforehand.
Right.
No retakes or anything of the sort. You just you get one straight shot and that's it.
With a stream, and streams are fun again because the audience gets to actually directly be a part of the journey. They get to actually feel like they're in the room hanging out with you.
Except those times when you have a delay about 30 minutes.
That's true.
that was an interesting watch. I gotta give you.
Yeah, that was a different experience. Of course, bad internet versus actually people who stream professionally obviously aren't going to have potato internet like Landon and I once had. So
well. Sometimes you just can't do anything with the situation you're in.
Mm-hmm.
That said, we have managed to live stream on a camping site in Köln.
Huh.
That was an
Really?
interesting. Yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah,
we had a mobile phone with about 16 gigabit of a gigabyte of memory data we could just send over a month. And
Wow.
we started to do the math and said, yeah, we can stream for like 3 weeks with this. And then we threw
Jesus.
the phone up in a tree, we put a computer, hooked a webcam to it, a couple of microphones, a mixer table, and we were set.
That's
awesome.
That's literally like just jerry rigging a setup.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then again, at least for me, when it comes to these kind of things, I love to give myself a challenge when I do this. These days I'm more of a streamer, but then again, I can do streams on such interesting locations. I mean, last winter, I think two people watched that. I was sitting in a small teepee with a projector on the other side of the on the wall and a
My
video
God.
camera hooked to it. It was decent to play. The problem was the controller started to freeze all the time.
Dude, I am telling you right now, people need to know about this. I'm gonna advertise for Jeremiah Brantholm's extreme streaming.
Uh, I was going to do something similar this winter, but the problem was that every night it was snowing.
That's
And,
amazing.
yeah, and I didn't really want to do that thing again because I was afraid to disturb some people that was living nearby.
When the conditions get rough, when the internet gets shitty, Jeremias is there to stream for you.
What am I doing here? I doesn't get paid for this.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, man. Yeah, that's something more people should have showed up for, just to hear the sound of the wind whipping against your teepee.
Nah,
just like, I could die at any time, guys. This is absolutely amazing. For you today, I'm streaming, but for me in my heart, I'm streaming for the last time.
nah, I don't. It wasn't that such. I wasn't in that such danger. The worst that could happen was that the generator ran out of fuel.
Well, yeah, which would it would be dark, but I'm assuming you could survive with your rugged wilderness skills.
I had a little flashlight.
Oh,
So,
well,
so
that
yeah,
works.
Yeah.
back on track. So that's really that's what I find entertaining with doing this. Just part for myself, just sit there and try to figure out how am I supposed to do this. Can I get good enough reception here to either the phone network or we're running a wireless in this valley I can hook up into, but just find the limitations of things. That's what I get out from doing these kind of things.
Yeah, the fun thing about streaming versus recording and that sort of thing, and honestly being able to hybridize and do both, is that, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's such a low entry barrier to get into it, but it is a completely viable career option these days. There are people who completely make all of their money streaming. In fact, there's a lot of people who do that. And they're mostly people who are very skilled. Like, the streamers versus Let's Players is interesting, because streamers usually are extremely skilled. Their whole thing is that they're speedrunners, or that they're challenge runners, or that they're people like that. You know, you have people like Lobos Jr. who does all those Dark Souls challenge runs, and then the speedrunning community is vast and full of people who are all, spending every day speedrunning, hours a day and making just as much money doing that as they would in any other kind of career. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, wow, there's this even the glass ceiling for that is way lower than it is for Let's Playing, where it's like there are probably a grand total of 6 or 7 non-Minecraft Let's Play channels that are actually making money.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you've obviously heard of all of them. I could name them all here.
Okay.
Oh.
Please do.
Oh,
Just because
okay.
I'm unsure if I actually know all of them.
Well, I get nervous to name drop. That was the only reason I didn't just go right for it. But
It's okay. I'm not
One of
gonna-
them's like Sky, right?
right, yeah. Well, Sky, that's the Minecraft, one of the Minecraft guys. Sky does, or I don't know if he actually has his own. Does he have a separate channel other than Minecraft? His stuff is kind of off my radar.
I only know because it's like on other people's videos, like recommended for you, like at the right side of the screen.
Yeah, Sky does Minecraft. I know, I see all the time, and from he's very young and he does a lot of stuff. But Yeah, he posts like Minecraft Part 1 billion every day I see, and I'm just like, man, and it's always millions of views too. So it's like, man, you got some dedicated people who are willing to sit through that much damn Minecraft.
Yeah. Didn't we have one guy named Chad something?
I believe. Oh, well, you have Markiplier, and you have. I mean, we're just going through the top ones here.
Yeah.
Markiplier, obviously PewDiePie is huge, and you have the Game Grumps. I would say they're the biggest group.
Yogscast comes to mind, but are
Yeah,
they really?
Yogscast.
Then again, they have branched out a bit. Now they're making music
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
There's like someone named Jacksepticeye who just kind of came up from out of nowhere.
yeah. I've heard about him, and that's just kind of one of those things where it's like it can happen for anyone overnight. It's weird. Yeah, Achievement Hunter, they're pretty big. Although most of them are branching off into streaming these days. The two best friends play, I'd say, are the most classic Let's Players in terms of like what they do. It's the most like old school. Hey, let's sit down and record some video games feeling thing on the entirety of the scope.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of somebody else. I mean, then there's people who aren't really Let's Players who are popular, but they technically fall in the category because they do commentary over gameplay. You have people like Critical and Vinesauce uploads their stuff. So
Giant chunks. Yeah, there's also like people who branched off into Let's Playing as well.
yeah,
Um,
the Nerdist podcast comes to mind on that. Like a lot of them individual, like Felicia Day does Let's Plays now. She does. She did that whole Kingdom Hearts, and probably even more than that. But that's the one I've seen. Like you'll get celebrities doing Let's Plays now, and that's an interesting thing.
Oh my! I
Like
didn't actually
real
know that.
celebrities.
there was even they called it a gameplay commentary, but like the creator of Conker's Bad Fur Day was like playing through like Conker's Bad Fur Day and like talking about what he was going through when he was developing it.
Yeah,
That's a Let's Play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by all accounts, that's basically a Let's Play.
but,
Yeah.
but then again, that's more of a. Wouldn't that be more of a walkthrough of how they were thinking while they were designing and developing this thing?
Technically, it's
But,
Well, basically-
but then again, it is commentary over gameplay. So
Right.
yeah,
It may not
absolutely
be
see
like-
where-
It's not like Laugh Riot, but it's interesting because this Let's Playing format has kind of allowed for there to be that whole riff track / commentary track thing that people have always loved with movies.
Yeah,
It's on video games, and it's been on video games for years. Just now, like within the last couple of years, developers are starting to see that as an opportunity to capitalize and do it themselves. Like say, okay, well, we can make a gameplay commentary video, essentially a Let's Play. Ukulele, I believe one of their stretch goals, and I could be wrong here, I could be misremembering, but if I'm not mistaken, one of their stretch goals was we'll put up a YouTube series of us going through the game with commentary.
oh.
Which is super interesting that a Let's Play was a stretch goal.
well, then again, I'm curious how they're thinking when they're developing games and stuff like that. So I would really love to have to see that.
One thing I know for sure is that a lot of developers, especially indie devs, are putting together games with streaming and Let's Playing in mind. They want
Yeah.
the Let's Play community to be involved. They'll actually sell, or not really sell, but like give away the ability to play the game early builds of the game, if you'll put it up on your YouTube channel with commentary. They want your name to help propel their title, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah, so they want you to do some kind of advertisement for it, basically.
Yeah, essentially it's free PR, and you get to not only get, obviously a video on your channel that's probably going to do pretty well just because of the hype surrounding whatever title you're playing. Shovel Knight was a big example of this. I believe pretty much every major YouTube Let's Player did Shovel Knight. And that was not a coincidence. That was a lot of that was Yacht Club handing them a copy of the game and saying, "Please play this on your channel."
Pretty much.
Two best friends play. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Yacht Club is paying them off," but in reality, it was kind of the other way around. Like two best friends play supported the hell out of Shovel Knight. Like they
Oh
bought,
yeah.
yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm so excited that we live in a culture where indie devs are recognizing the potential of this medium for advertisement. And at the same time, they're developing games with a medium in mind like this. It could potentially be an improvement on the entirety of that sort of development.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
getting closer connected to like the community, being able to know exactly like be able to like get help and like they help each other, or in a sense like recognizing those with like a certain talent that can assist them in a like future. In the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
Right.
Also, usually they are young developers trying to just
Yeah.
get themselves known, and usually young people are more small companies with young people are much faster of uh, what's the name for it?
Accepting.
Yeah, accepting and using new forms of media to reach out to the people they want to.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to see a dinosaur company reaching out very often. I mean, I know I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that some of the bigger companies have reached out to some of the more popular Let's Players, like maybe PewDiePie or Markiplier or someone in that family, to probably plug some of the bigger games. But
You know,
honestly,
there was a whole like campaign involving Xbox's Indie Arcade of Summer. Like several people did videos on that, and there was also the whole thing where PewDiePie had his quote on like an advertisement for like Dying Light, too.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
remember
that
that.
was well. There's a whole zeitgeist going on right now where YouTube celebrities are kind of becoming more influential than real celebrities. Um, because younger people are no longer putting because YouTube celebrities are more accessible. They're more it feels like there's less of a barrier between you and them. It feels like you're more likely to kind of bask in their glow. And aside from that, it's also the fact that they're so much more willing to put out content quickly and customized to the interests of their viewer base. Whereas real celebrities tend to just do whatever real celebrities do. It feels like they're in a whole other world from you. You admire them from afar.
Yeah,
Um, so I remember reading an entire article about this and seeing a lot of people talking about this. YouTube celebrities are kind of becoming the real celebrities, quote unquote. Like they're the ones who are influencing younger generations way more regularly and way more aggressively, I would say, than the people who are in Hollywood making movies and such, and the people who are in the tabloids and all that.
which is really interesting. At least for me, with how such a big machine all of a sudden is starting to lose a bit of the momentum it have had for what is it like
The
almost
better
100 years.
That's what's a
nine,
better part of 100 years.
90 years or so, yeah.
hmm and that's fascinating. It's the same thing with esports. It's like, and again, this is marginally related to Let's Play. I apologize to go off on a tangent
No,
here,
no,
but
I think it,
um,
I think the to get to the bottom of this, it's we're kind of going through this shift in what people in a media that younger people start to relate to a bit better, because it isn't as slow, it isn't as rigid as as radio or television, stuff like that. If they want to
right.
watch the stuff later, when they can't watch it live, for example, they can just go back and watch it later the day, maybe.
hmm And that's been one of the biggest things is archival viewing is so much easier and more accessible. We take that for granted almost because we're so used to it now. But
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
dude,
you
we can't forget that we are the last people. We're gonna be the last generation that remember the time before internet.
Good
yeah, yeah.
riddance. I'm
Yeah,
not
forget
I'm
those
not
fucking.
waxing nostalgic over that sort of thing.
Me
That's
neither. I mean,
amazing.
I went from regular phone modems in 2006. Then we
Yeah,
got
me too.
then we got this kind of wireless router that used an old mobile phone range we aren't using in Sweden anymore. So overnight we went from 56K to a megabit. Well, on
Yeah.
paper it was like more like 0.8 or something like that. But
I was gonna
YouTube
say,
was
you
fully
entered the
watchable.
future zone. You fucking walked right into the future zone, and fucking lights started popping up, and fucking loud rave music, and
Yeah, something like that. And then I
yeah, pretty
found,
much.
and then you just find the dark side of the internet, and you haven't been able to crawl your way out since then.
It doesn't take long to find it either, but yeah, back on the subject of esports,
Yeah,
um, that's one of those things I think is really cool and also really fascinating. That out of nowhere, esports are almost more. I mean, I'm not going to say at all more viable than the more popular ESPN sports, but they're really getting up there. League of Legends is huge,
yeah, and
huge
I
for
remember
reasons I
when.
could never understand.
Yeah, I remember when I watched. I think it was the second World Finals, and it was 100,000 people in the
Yeah,
finals that was watching. And these years, I mean, even the small tournaments are like 100,000 viewers.
we
Like,
have
it just got really big, really fast for some reason.
right. And you have SGDQ and stuff like that. That's happening right now.
Yeah,
SGDQ, the speedrunning community,
yeah, I,
huge audiences for that.
yeah,
There's like the fighting game community too, and that's like when Evo starts up, that's like one of the big events. Like almost anyone who's interested in fighting games tunes in.
Evo is amazing too. Like Evo is way more hype than anything I've ever seen come out of a more physical sport.
Esports is getting so popular that people are getting into getting into like arguments as to like the fact that because ESPN is covering the sort of things now,
Yeah,
they are.
yeah.
and like people are arguing like whether or not that real like be sitting there and playing video games really counts as a sport.
I
Like,
mean,
what
it
constitutes
does
being a sport, like
exactly.
this or that. Or,
Well, they're competing over the fact they're gonna be better at a game. I don't know, but that sounds like sports to me.
if it,
Yeah.
if chess is technically like if they can cover chess, they can cover esports.
Yeah,
Right, if they cover poker, I mean, like Magic. An interesting part of that evolution towards more geeky / nerdy sports becoming accepted in general. Magic the Gathering was they broadcasted World Championships for that on ESPN back in the '90s. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, that's something I've always found really fascinating. If I'm not mistaken, it was Worlds 1999 or Worlds 2000 that all the footage you can find of that has the ESPN logo down in the bottom left corner. And so that was back in the day when I don't know why Magic the Gathering was briefly considered to be an ESPN-worthy sport, but it came off ESPN pretty quick.
well, Magic have had a fairly large audience.
Well, yeah, and it was probably at its zenith. At that time, that was its zenith back in 2000. And, of course, it petered off for a bit and then came way back in, like, 2013 and has gotten bigger and bigger since. But
Yeah,
it's looking back now and seeing that happened. It's like, okay, well, it makes sense that eventually, as we moved into a culture where there's no longer a stigma on being a geek, there's no longer a stigma on being a nerd, and people who try to claim that there is are kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah, I have to admit that.
There's a zeitgeist, and the zeitgeist is, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, just bear with me. That the geek culture, nerd culture, that's the thing now. Like that's what the younger folks, what am I?
People still in school.
Right, that's what kids are gonna grow up into and be completely cool with being into.
dude. That way, I kind of wish I was at least 12 years younger. I mean, I wouldn't be beating in the schoolyard. I would be the hippest thing on the block.
Yeah, it's so funny because everyone is a gamer now, or everyone plays video games. People will come up to me who I'd never expect because just growing up in high school being the only guy who played Nintendo. and I went to a small high school. I'm not saying this is just the general high school experience. Um, among like the small amount of kids I was with, I was the one guy who was really into this nerd culture stuff, and then there was a few people who were marginally into it, and that's pretty much how it used to be, and that was fine. And nowadays, it's like, wow, somebody will walk up to you, never expect, and be like, hey, do you play video games? What do you play? I'm into this. I'm into this. It's a completely different, subdivided culture that almost everyone is in on now, and I think that's awesome. I think that's the way it always was gonna be.
Yeah. I'm kind of proud of the setback that like nowadays video games have managed to get to the point where everyone can like can like play games themselves and like have a good time and have fun with like whatever like tickles their fancy, pretty much adventure games or puzzles or like action or anything.
That's the thing about video games is once upon a time, in the 80s it was a big craze, obviously, everybody, and then when the fad died out, everyone was afraid that video games had become specialized. The only people who wanted to play video games were essentially the people who were into video games. Like, that was their thing. They liked video games. And for years, that really was the case. There was a whole culture of people who played video games, and that was their whole gamers, if you want to call them that, whatever you want. That was it. That was the people who played video games versus the people who now play video games, which is everybody. Now there's no longer. It's like movies. Everybody watches movies, but not everyone's into the same kind of movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So, everybody goes out to the theater, but some people are going to go to the theater to catch the latest, they're go to Sundance or something to see the latest indie movies, whereas other people are going to go, see every Marvel movie that comes out because that's what they want,
Yeah.
And that's why you can't really consciously. That's why I think the fight back from the community of people who played video games before it was quote unquote cool. I think it's funny that people are fighting back against this being a more general thing now, because it's like you sound like a hipster. You sound like a movie hipster. He's like, yeah, cinema used to be art,
Then everyone is
Dawn of the Dead.
You got to get with
classic.
it. It's like cinema's still art. The stuff that you want to see in cinema is still being made, bro. It's the same thing with video games. There's a whole indie community that makes exactly the kind of games you want to see, but then there's the AAA community that's going to make what the more general public wants. That's just the way these things go.
Yeah, I mean, the more people like something, the bigger the production gonna be.
Exactly.
It's the same old story, basically.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that, like, with Kickstarter culture being a thing these days, ukulele being as huge as it was, and Red Ash, which is that Mega Man Legends reboot, essentially, that Concept is making, and Mighty Number 9, all these games that are obviously made to cater to people like me who want to play, who want to see their childhood basically reimagined a million times. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like that's not what it is, but that's what I want to see as a consumer. So, that's happening, and it's there for you. It's not being taken away. So it's impossible to, I mean, not impossible, but it's definitely a little harder to go around like, oh, they're killing video games. Like, yeah, no, they're not. You still got what you want. It's still there. It just isn't what everybody wants anymore.
Yeah. Then again, if it could survive the 80s, I think it can survive another crash.
Yeah.
I don't think video games are at a point where we would have to worry about it being like comic books for a time.
Yeah.
Everyone and their mother had a comic book.
Where like comic books became like comic books became big enough that they started trying to get directly to like this old like the audience that was always buying them. But by doing that, they basically like stopped. They like went they like managed to completely avoid like a younger audience, and as a result, they had to keep like going directly to this group that was buying comics, and that audience was shrinking over time until the point where it's at this point where the only people who would understand most of what happens in comic books is like to people who like are really old and probably aren't interested in that sort of thing told over and over again. But like the younger audiences like would have to go, okay, well here's the first issue made like 50 years ago. You better catch up. You're never going to understand why the Grim Reaper really hates Thor.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting that you bring that up, the entry barrier. That doesn't really exist so much in video games
Not
these
really.
days. It's so much easier, and if you want to get into an older series like even Mega Man or Final Fantasy, video games allow you to enter at any point. You know, I grew up in the '90s. I didn't grow up in the '80s, so I didn't get to play the really NES titles. I started at the SNES. My first Mega Man game was Mega Man X, and that was still a perfectly fine entry point for me because I go back and now I'm into pretty much anything that has Mega Man on the fucking cartridge. I'm into that game, you know.
Right.
So versus comic books, where it's such a weird thing to me that they put that entry barrier so high. You can't pick up a random issue of a comic book and start reading it and go, I get it, because a million people you've never seen before just fucking hanging out, doing whatever they do, walking around. Oh, Corvinimus over there is attacking us with his laser of Saltamimus. Oh no.
Yeah,
We know about that.
Please see issue 387.
Yeah, and like this, that weren't they friends with him 2 issues ago?
Yeah. It's like, don't hey, you guys remember the Saltamimus thing though. We address it, so don't worry. Just don't make me bring it up again.
Yeah. Then again, we sit and laugh about it. But there's probably someone out there that actually understand what is going on. But
Well, someone
that's
has
with
to, I would hope.
everything else. You just need to take time and start to get into it.
Pretty much. And I mean, that's what makes video games great comparatively. Or I mean, I'm not saying comparatively to everything, but as a genre that's a little easier to break into. And people don't even consider themselves geeks and nerds anymore at this point. I mean, that whole aesthetic exists. You have places like Geek and Sundry, but if you play video games, that doesn't automatically make you a geek or a nerd anymore. It's just, and honestly, that word damn near means nothing. It's like the word hipster. You wear
Yeah.
pants, you are therefore a geek,
Yeah.
It's like, it used to mean something. It used to describe a group of people who had their own, like, esoteric things about them, their own idiosyncratic
Yeah.
qualities, but nowadays that's not really the case. What does a geek look like anymore? What is and don't say a speedrunner because, I mean, obviously, but otherwise,
It
Dude,
feels
it
more like a slider, like some like it's possible to be like the most geek that you can possibly be, but I don't feel like you can technically like try to bunch people up into being like these is a group, these are the geeks, these are the hipsters, these are like the jocks, and this is like we're not like in high school. I don't feel like we need to be separated into groups like that.
I completely agree.
Then again, if we were going to looks, I'm still wondering how they will manage to fit in a hippie from the 70s just be playing games.
You know what? I actually am very interested in really looking at the demographic of who played video games in the 80s compared to who played them in the 90s.
Gee, 80s?
Because it was a different group of people for sure.
It almost feels like
Probably.
it was.
Probably. Then again, I think I could look around if I can find people old enough.
80s always kind of felt like this sort of. To be fair, I started with like the 2600 when I was a kid because
Yeah.
that was my parents had that system with a bunch of games in it before I just jumped over to like the Super Nintendo when I was like 6.
Yeah.
But we had it for like the longest time, so I never really thought of it as like this console that was directed to a younger audience. It just seemed like this sort of thing that like you would just have in like some off room and maybe play every once in a while.
Yeah. Video games were considered a novelty when they came out, obviously, because not much actual effort was put into development back then. I mean, you can pretty much see that in any Atari title.
You couldn't
know.
put much effort into that.
Then
No,
again,
not at all.
then again, it had the processing power of a modern toaster, so even less than a
Pretty
modern
much.
toaster. So I'm impressed what they managed to do with it.
No, you could probably play an NES title on a modern toaster, to be fair, but I mean, what's interesting is versus like the NES, which also was not incredibly strong. They had to push the limits of what they could do. And the Atari really, I don't really see any developers that really pushed those limits. They didn't really say, oh, let's use, for the sound effects, let's use some of the music files and slow them down and stuff like that. Like, they had to really innovate on the NES, and they really did. They pushed. They wanted to get as much content as they could into the game.
Yeah.
Versus back in, in the 80s and the 70s when the Atari and all that had its heyday. They were like, it blips and it boops, so you shoot the robots. I don't know what to tell you, just buy it.
Yeah. But
$60. Come on.
Then again, I think it's interesting, and I think that what it comes back to with the Let's Plays and everything. That's video games are the only medium that can tell you that you're not good enough to enjoy the rest of the package.
Yeah.
You don't have you don't have a song that goes, no, you're not dancing good enough. Get out, get out.
Start from the beginning and do it right this time.
Yeah, get good, essentially.
I mean, you don't have that in any other media.
Video games are also, in terms of Let's Playing, one of the reasons why it's so fun to watch the more comedic side of that. Video games are generally, and I mean pretty much always, broken, shambling messes if you just unravel one thread.
Pretty much.
I mean, programming is hard. You can't ever do it perfectly. I promise you, in any game, AAA or otherwise, there is a seam you can hop through that will utterly devastate the game. And if there isn't, somebody has already got a mod that makes that seam exist. So don't worry. It's not hard to fuck a game over. That's why I love that Let's Playing knows that, and that's comedy. It's if you got somebody who's funny enough, somebody who's interesting enough, over the top of that footage, it's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's... Oh, sorry.
That's pretty much the, that's what I think, that's what I kind of like when it comes to Let's Plays. It's that, this sort of, a personal, it's the game, but it's also somebody else, their personal idea, their personal, idea, their attempts to entertain on top of it. Whether it's informative or funny or just talking with somebody else. It's this own personal flair, so to speak.
Yeah, that's Marilink, who listeners of this podcast may know, is a very common co-host. He made a point in a thread once about Let's Play, or he's like, I don't know why anybody would watch Let's Plays when I could just play the game myself and do it better. It's like instead of watching someone badly play a game, I'll just play it myself. And I understand where people are coming from when they say that, but generally, my argument is this: if you're going to watch a Let's Play, you're not watching it for the gameplay footage. Really, you're watching it for the people hosting the footage. You're watching it for the personalities of the people playing the game.
Yeah, even if you are interested in the game, usually, the main interest is the person playing it, more or less.
I mean, to me, if I watch an episode of, let's say, the Game Grumps, I think, to me, it sounds more like a podcast when I'm watching them, because a lot of times, they're really only marginally discussing the game for most of the time. Most of the time, they're telling stories about their life, or what stuff's going on in their day. And then, when something happens in the game, they'll chime in. I think with Thorio Brothers, we do try to be a little bit more focused on the gameplay, because otherwise, again, you could basically just do a podcast. There's no point in the game even being there if you're not focusing on the game at all. But we definitely want to focus on the game a little bit more. But at the same time, you want to do comedy over the game. You want to essentially make it an improv comedy show over a video game. Let the video game be your prompt. If you treat it like whose line is it anyway? The video game is Drew Carey. The Gyarados are flying through the ceiling. What are you gonna do with that? Whose line is it anyway?
I never actually had a Gyarados flying through the ceiling.
Yeah, that's very uncommon. We the reference point there. There's one time we got the key. This was never on camera, unfortunately. to the last guard in the fortress, and as the animation was playing of him looking at the key, the da 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 da, with the little item description prompt, the Gyarados was literally clipping through the ceiling. You could just see her legs because she was jumping out of frame. So it was beautiful. It was a wonderful, magical thing that only video games can bring you.
Oh yeah.
Only badly programmed video games.
Well, then again, bloopers in movies could probably give you something similar.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, fuck-ups they managed to still have in the movies. Just like Star Wars, when that stormtrooper runs into the door, and it made it to the cut. Also, I think one time Mark Hamill is running or something, screaming after Princess Leia, but he forgets himself for a second there and screams, "Carrie!" I don't remember if that's actually in the movie or that's a blooper, but I have seen it happen.
God, that's beautiful. No, movies are bad too. I mean, pretty much anything made by humans is going to be imperfect. A lot of times, I guess our brain just auto-corrects those imperfections even when we notice them.
Yeah, you can actually suspend your disbelief enough.
Yeah. It's like you kind of go through and you're like, all right, well, let me just turn my brain off when I'm watching this movie or playing this video game. I'm not going to notice that in Ocarina of Time, which is, by the way, one of the most poorly programmed things in the universe.
You don't say.
You could you could sneeze on your Ocarina of Time cartridge and find yourself teleporting straight to Ganon. I mean, it's unbelievable. But when you play games like that, even if you notice stuff like that, you're like, oh, whatever. It's like watching old anime. You don't notice how many bad animation errors there are in those things until you're going back through later with an eye for it, and you're like, oh my god, this is a mess. You know, whole N64 game.
That said, I never actually managed to do that. Only thing I managed to see when I go through movies like that is the naked girls in the background.
Yeah, that happens.
But then again,
that happens.
I have a knack of just finding the most inappropriate stuff like that wherever I go.
It's a curse, really. Your boner SP.
Yes, that when everyone looking around searching for stuff, they find these people that smear themselves in peanut butter. They have this awesome funny rants on Tumblr. I just find the porn.
Yeah, I see. You know what? That's fine though. If someone has to find it, there's got to be somebody with that innate sense of where is the boobs.
I was more, but then again, it can be quite aggravating when you're trying to find personal info.
Yeah, of course, but then all you find is boobs. It's fine. It's fine. Just accept it. You go to search for someone on Facebook that you need to connect with. Ah, shit! I found boobs. Okay. I guess
this is not what I'm. This is not what I'm looking for.
Why do my fingers only type boobs? This is a nightmare. A sexy, sexy nightmare.
Who hacked my keyboard?
Yes, it was hacked indeed. Yes, absolutely. To bring it back home.
Yes, please.
That's what's beautiful. That's what's beautiful about Let's Playing is that you just get to play and point out these glitches, and especially if you have a working knowledge of a game, it's like, cool, I'm going to hop through this wall real fast and make a joke about it. This is stuff you would have never known about when you were a kid in the 90s, and it's something you would have killed to see on TV.
Yeah.
Or, you know? And nowadays we just have it at our fingertips, and we almost take it for granted. It's like, you know, we laugh and we watch it, but it's like, this is something we didn't have when we were younger. The option to just watch and see these things that we never thought possible. When I was a kid, I didn't know you could fucking hop straight from Goma to the fucking Bongo Bongo fight. Who would have known that?
Well, then
other than the people.
It took some really dedicated people to find those things.
Exactly. But those people exist, and you have access to them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand
versus
what you mean.
oh yeah, versus like back in the day, if that person existed, he was the guy at your school that no one talked to just because he kind of sat by himself and was always in his head thinking about where are the glitches, you know.
Yeah, had a time like that when I was trying to hack the first Metroid.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, there's a lot wrong with that one too,
Oh, good heavens! I can make that game cry.
but oh, that's what I love about old programming, man. The N64 did not age well. Pretty much nothing really aged well on the
Yeah.
N64 because it's like versus 16-bit and 8-bit video games. And even like that kind of transitional 32-bit that the 32-bit phase that the SNES had there at the end, all of those things hold up because they're not trying to really break anything too hard. I mean, obviously there's glitches, obviously there's collision stuff and that sort of thing that even back then was easy to exploit.
Yeah, but they felt
And then
solid.
we tried to move to 3D, and that's when things started to fall apart.
Oh yeah, Ocarina of Time is absolutely a mess. It's really it's a classic video game. It's amazing that it even works because God, actual wow, it just every 3 seconds you could walk into oblivion and you don't even know it. You're being held together by strings and prayers.
And a fair amount of duct tape.
Exactly. Nintendo is just really like hoping, please don't notice that nothing in this game works. Please.
You know when the producer of the game have admitted to waking up sweating during the night, having nightmares from finding yet another bug in Ocarina of Time, that something is definitely wrong here.
Absolutely. It even Majora's Mask, which is a little bit more solid because there's a little more polish on it, is a broken, shambling mess.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. Star Fox is a mess. You know, there's so many of those games that were Mario 64. Let's not even get started on that. I mean, that's been bent over everyone's knee and spanked. It's to this point, there's not even anything left to do with it. It's like, guess what? You can get 120 stars in 20 minutes. Who cares?
Yeah.
If you know how to jump through the universe, which everyone apparently does. So it's great that we live in a culture where pretty much anything you could dream is available in video game form.
Yeah.
Which is why it's hard to break into it. Which to go back to my earlier point, because what is there to offer that's really new in Let's Play?
Nothing I can think of, no.
Yeah, I was about to say, is it a genre that's already used up its potential?
I do think that we still have some chance of reimagine it, but I think it have kind of solidified into this thing. But I still think that there is stuff out there that we actually can do with it. Because I still have to find someone who makes political commentary while they're playing video games.
What?
That'd be interesting. How would that be received?
I don't know, but the Goombas kind of represent the Republicans, and they saw that red guy, that guy in the red overalls there is a rebel of some kind, and I don't know how that thing would work, but.
So you're saying more like using the actual gameplay. I thought you were just saying somebody playing a video game, but all the while they're ranting about their political beliefs. Like, you can't come into my home and take my weapons away.
C-SPAN resents the Republican national debate while everyone plays Metroid Prime.
Yeah, no, please let the presidential debate be that. I mean, like, whoever ends up being the primary candidates, let's just say it's Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders or something. I just want to see them have a fucking Super Mario 3 competition a la The Wizard, you know? Oh, Bernie Sanders has found the magic flute. He's in World 8 already.
You know, if I can get my video editing software working again, I'll see what I can do with it.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Or I get what you're saying, but like, oh my god, I would absolutely love that. I would love for somehow video games to be ingrained. I mean, I don't want to live in the world depicted by that Adam Sandler movie that's atrocious, mind you, that just came out.
Oh,
Um,
the pixels thing.
oh, it's so bad.
You actually
Then
went and
again,
saw
it's
it.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I didn't expect anything more than shitty.
No, somebody, I don't know who said this, and I'm going to quote them here. If you said this, it was you. I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. But it was like, if Wreck-It Ralph was a love letter to video gaming, then Pixels was like a drunken sext.
Sounds accurate. Sounds
Yeah, the movie being
It's
awful
like,
was probably just icing on the cake.
like, so it feels like, actually, to again relate this to Let's Play, there are people who, and I'm not going to name names here because I'm not going to, like, being that I'm in the game, I'm kind of not allowed to call people out really without starting something, but being, well, my 30 views a video, I'm totally going to get them angry, but
You'd be surprised.
yeah, exactly. The fans will attack anybody.
Yes.
It's not even really the people themselves, it's their fans.
You don't know certain people, they might.
Exactly. So there are people who are pretty much at the top of this game who, to me, have that Adam Sandler feeling. Like, I don't feel like there's really any love for what they're doing and the stuff. It's just like they're just doing it because they know that's what's making them their money. And it feels forced, it feels phoned in, it feels kind of like regurgitated and catchphrasy and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking of one channel in particular. That's the one that's in my head right now. And I'm going to let you all take a wild guess in your hearts as to who I'm talking about. But, you know.
Does he live in Phoenix?
Uh, I don't know.
Ah.
You might.
I'm not going to play a game of Guess Who here on this one, but I obviously have my distaste for certain people in the game. But then there's people who I can tell obviously love video games, and obviously that's like their whole life, that's their passion, and it's so beautiful to get to hear them have this platform where they get to share that love and they get to share that passion. You know, and there's a lot of those, and those are the people you really want to watch. That's who I'm glad has a voice and a platform and a chance to make money and really build a community around that. And that's where Let's Playing has its best moments, is that community. People have really found something to rally around and find solidarity and find like minds and find something to laugh about, something to brighten their day up. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Something to gather around, basically.
Exactly. It's just part of this big wider geek culture takeover, I guess. It's part of this modernization of culture is really the best way to put it, where now this type of media, this YouTube easily consumable, easy to make media that's still high quality enough to be considered something, you know, worldwide.
Yeah.
That's something that people can now easily have access to watch if they're having a bad day, make their day a little bit better, or if they're, you know, just to feel like they're hanging out with somebody, to feel like they got somebody in this world who they can understand and who can listen to them, even if they're not directly doing it. It's like that's their friends now, you
Yeah.
know.
Then again, we've been talking about this, but I just realized. Can you see something bad with Let's Playing
Hmm?
that might influence something in a negative way?
Oh yeah.
I know I have one, and that's I have to listen to PewDiePie on national radio. That kind of hurts.
PewDiePie on national radio?
On
Yeah.
national
I know
radio.
you live. I know you live closer to him than I do, but like, really?
Yes. Whew. When I realized it, when I realized I'm gonna have to listen to that guy for an hour, I turned off I changed the station. I do admire him for what he's managed to do, but I don't. But it's what he's doing isn't really my cup of tea.
Yeah, he's not to your taste.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Hey, he's not to mine either, so I understand that. But oh my goodness, I can't believe that's what I was talking about earlier. The fact that YouTube celebrities are way more influential almost than real celebrities these days. It's interesting because again, one of the big negative points of Let's Playing is that it's such a low entry barrier that everybody does it. Everybody's trying to toss their hat into that because it sure does look like easy money from the outside looking in. You know, and it's kind of made it difficult for anyone who really does love it, who really does have a passion for that sort of thing, and who really does have a voice and a unique angle on it. It makes it harder for them to really get into it because the sea, and I'm talking about the fucking ocean of people who put up gameplay footage. And it's come to the point where YouTube has kind of been turned into this gameplay footage centric site. Like, that's pretty much the majority of YouTube. That's where all the bandwidth is going.
Yeah.
So it's like, it feels like it is oversaturated, it's overflooded, and that's what's making it feel so tired and done, and like there's really nothing new to add to the genre.
Yeah, the people there that just try to make the stuff for making the stuff's sake.
Exactly.
Kind of.
I don't even want to call it that per se, just because I know that they're not. In their heart, they're doing it because they want to do it. They think, oh, this will be fun. This will be something I can do. It's not like they're doing it in a malicious way, like, oh, I'm just doing this to put this out. They're doing it because they know that they want to do it big. They want to get to the same level as, you know, the PewDiePies and the Game Grumps and all those. But really, who can these days unless you got to remember how many of these people already had followings when they became Let's Players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think I phrased it a bit. I phrased it badly.
Yeah. It's like, you know, PewDiePie, I don't know if he really did. I don't know if he was like just this overnight guy who got popular because he had face cam and that was kind of newish at the time. He hopped onto the horror game thing like when Slender had first come out, and so that's where he really came from. But then you had people like the Game Grumps. That was Ego Raptor, who's been an internet celebrity since before the internet had anyone on it.
Dude, he's been on new grounds for I don't know how long.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially, it's because pretty much all the new grinders these days have their own separate Let's Play channels. Barely any of them really animate anymore.
Well,
so
I know some people that still animate, but then again, they have other jobs on the side, so to speak.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to, because unfortunately for them, it's very difficult to. Animating by yourself is something that nobody in the professional animation industry really does. You outsource the animation work and you just do the storyboarding and the writing and whatnot when you get into a professional cartooning sense. But, so I'm sorry that not more of them actually made it into where they wanted to be and just kind of wound up being like what Ego Raptor is, which is essentially an internet celebrity. That's what he is. He's known for what he can do, but he's, you know, one of those people who nowadays basically he does Game Grumps and he does his own little art projects and stuff on the side, but Game Grumps is the focus. That's his thing.
Yeah.
And then you have the Two Best Friends Play. That was what got them popular. Was it started off? Matt already kind of had some guff with the Machinima channel because he'd been doing, you know, edits of Street Fighter, and he's been an artist for years. And so when he decided to get one of his friends to come over and do a Let's Play, he already kind of had an in with Machinima, and that's how they got popular.
Yeah. Well, you got to know people really if you want to get exposure.
You need connections, exactly, and that's a lot of young folks. Here I go again. A lot of people who are getting into the game don't know that, and that's why it's oversaturated. It's just thousands of people like, oh, if I just put it on YouTube, people will come and watch. Like,
Yeah.
where are all the free views at? Like, it's unfortunately it's not that easy, because who the hell is going to click on a video that has 30 views that's yet another video of the same video game they've seen a million times played by a million people? You're going to overlap. It doesn't matter. You're going to make a joke that's similar to a joke they've heard before at the same place. It's just, unless you're just the funniest person on the planet, you know?
Some people try to buck the system by basically just trying to upload things first, or like, some people try to go for this, like, they do the, like, oh, this is scary, this webcam Let's Play stuff, or something like that.
That's a really easy way to get views.
Yeah. And I mean,
But,
like,
the attempt I made on Let's Play, the guys I was with was basically when we were doing Silent Hill 5, we didn't find the game really scary. What was really scary was the seams in the seams in all the textures. They were like they were like a mile wide.
Yeah,
That game
yeah,
looks
that
so
was the
weird.
worst thing.
Homecoming
That's
looks
the
so weird.
monster. The monster's the programming.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the entry barrier has to come from somewhere. And like you mentioned earlier, that people, Tazzy, that people do a lot of Nintendo games thinking that instantaneously
Mhm.
will get them stuff. But again, that's so done and retreaded. Again, I'm the pot calling the kettle black here because our channel consists of exclusively 2 Legend of Zelda Let's Plays and a bunch of edited footage of games no one gives a shit about.
Mm.
Yeah, but
But that's what we like to do, and we're doing it. I mean, to me, I'm doing this for fun. If this does turn into a career, that's really cool, and I would love it. But I'm doing this for fun. This is just a thing for me. This is something that me and Landon have wanted to do for a long time, and we're doing it. And I'm like, this is fun for me. I mean, while I treat it like a job, I edit the videos, or I don't edit pretty much anything these days, but I make sure the videos get uploaded. We make sure that they get put together and ready to go on a schedule if we can. But it's not really a job. It's just something we do for fun. A lot of people really want this to be their career, but have zero idea how to go about making that happen. And it sucks because you kind of have to sell out and jump on a hype train, which is not really a negative thing to do, but people are afraid it is. People are afraid, if I jump on Dark Souls 3 when it comes out, or am I just going to look like I'm dick riding? And
yeah, but
honestly, no, you're just doing what you should do. You're making the right business play.
yeah, I mean, it isn't a sellout to jump on a new game.
Exactly. You want to get there before, at least before as many people as you can get there before. You're not going to be the first one to play Dark Souls 3. I'm sorry. Whoever gets that luxury is has been putting a lot more dedication in than you're willing to do. But you know, when it comes out, if you're the first person who gets to get on Twitch, start that stream up, get the thousands of viewers who are ready to see a Dark Souls 3 stream instantaneously, then yeah, there you go. You got your free ride. But that's even then, it's not actually that simple.
Yeah,
You still kind of have to have some sort of influence and the ability to look as though you're worth watching. There's so much more to it than people think there is, because just pressing record on your capture software ain't going to get there. You got to actually have a business sense.
you need to have some entertainment value, basically.
Exactly.
Well, entertainment value. You got to work for it, basically, and I do agree. Most people that want to get up a bit in that kind of world usually seem to forget that.
Well, it's just like any kind of artistic medium or any kind of creative medium or really any business at all. If you start something, it doesn't matter how good you are at that thing. If you have zero business acumen, you're going to have no idea how to actually get into the market. You need your product, and it is a product, no matter what you're doing, music, whatever. You need your product to mean something to somebody to the point where people will buy it or people will come and consume it, so that the more numbers you have, the more people come in. No matter how pure your intentions are, it's still all going to boil down to business in the end, because that's how you get people to be a part of this thing you want to share,
Yeah.
is business sense. And a lot of people, obviously, if you're 14 and playing Minecraft, you probably don't have the best business sense.
Well,
You know,
I've known some young entrepreneurs.
they exist.
Not maybe that young, but
I'm not discrediting people entirely, but it's like, there's obviously not that many kids who are like super, super business savvy.
true, true. Oh
And
well.
they're usually the people doing Let's Plays.
Well,
That's
they're, they're doing it for fun.
exactly.
The smart ones will probably grow up to be happy old Let's Players one day.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been going on for an hour and 14 minutes. I think we can just
give or take.
yeah. I think we can start to end this here because I don't really know how much time I actually can put up on YouTube.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm stopping just because of that, because I think the discussion we're having is really interesting, but I'm gonna have to stop it now.
Oh yeah, we don't really want your computer to crash
No,
Exactly.
or unable to upload it at all. That's terrible too.
With
For those of you who
with the luck we're running,
That's
I'm pretty damn sure I'm gonna overshoot with like 10 minutes, and I'm gonna have this fun little evening trying to get my video editing software to work again.
Oh.
amazing.
But rendering would probably not be an issue this time around, because I actually have a processor that isn't melting every time I try to do heavy stuff with it.
Right.
Well, good luck with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
To those of you who had the dedication to make it to the end of this discussion, I commend you. Thank you, Tazzy and Jir, for having me on today. It was
Right.
fun.
And it was fun. I mean, we've been talking about having more guests on. It's just that it's a kind of a nightmare to get the scheduling to work.
Well,
Yeah, I can imagine. So
I mean,
it doesn't seem easy.
no, we're two people, and we miss recording day on a constant basis.
Unfortunately.
Eh, that's life.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm gonna stop recording now. So I'm gonna thank you everyone that been listening this far and everything, and just gonna ask you guys to say bye.
All right. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.